Mike, how about Brett Favre? No, I just did that for Jeff Rubenthal.
No.
Let's talk Penn State football.
Not Brett
Favre played pretty well against the Packers the other night.
Not Brett Favre.
Speaking of playing pretty well, the Nittany Lions played very well against Illinois, and one particular area that I think really stood out was the offensive line and the rushing game. What was it, 338 yards rushing?
When I saw that number, I was down at the Phillies game, and my jaw nearly hit the floor of the Citizens Bank Park press box because I didn't think they could run for 338 yards against anybody who gives football scholarships. I was stunned by that number, and I think their offensive line has made some progress. And part of it was the opposition, no question about it. Not only because Illinois apparently isn't any good, might be the worst team in the Big Ten, but also because they kind of played the pass and kind of allowed for the run a little bit, opposite of what some of Penn State's first couple opponents did. So, but I mean, they had two tailbacks have 100-yard games. They had 3 tailbacks score touchdowns. All 5 of their touchdowns were rushing. Darrell Clark had a 51-yard run on a 3rd and 7 play.
Yeah.
They were 8 for 12 third down conversions. I mean, I don't think there's any question, regardless of whether Ron Zook should be fired and whether Illinois kids have packed it in or not. Illinois has some athletes, and they were at home, and I can't believe that they couldn't make a stand in that situation when they're pretty much playing for their season.
Yes.
And Penn State really handled them.
A lot of popular Penn State. You talk about bounce backs. Both teams were trying to bounce back from losses.
Yeah.
You thought Illinois playing at home, they'd be really geared up for the game. Penn State, we were curious to see how they'd recover from a tough loss to Iowa. They recovered very well.
They really did. And
I think it sets them up pretty nicely for Eastern Illinois this week. Now, don't think Week 5 Eastern Illinois is just a pushover. These guys have got some athletes. They're not a bad team. They lost last week to Eastern Kentucky, 35-31. What, they've got a transfer from where? Michigan and one. Where's the quarterback from?
The quarterback is a transfer from Iowa who actually played against Penn State 2 years ago.
Okay.
And they're a pretty good football program. A veteran coach, a guy with a very odd name, Bob Spoo. That's their coach, but he's been there for 20-some years, and they have a pretty good football history and tradition. The New Orleans Saints coach, Sean Payton, is an alumnus. Mike Shanahan is an alumnus. Tony Romo is an alumnus, and some guy who's a replay official is also an NFL replay official is also an alumnus. So they've got some football history and tradition, and they are a pretty good 1AA team. However, Penn State should be stomping the crap out of 1AA teams.
Should. I think it could be a competitive game for a while. Injury front with Penn State real quick here. I want to get that in. Is Sean Lee going to play?
I don't think so. In Joe's press conference today, he made a sort of a general reference early on that we got a lot of kids who were beat up. So I asked Joe, well, is there anybody that we don't know about? I mean, we know about some of these injuries. They do have a lot of kids who are nursing a little bit of an ankle injury, or one of their offensive linemen played almost the entire Illinois game with a bad ankle, and so they are a little beat up, which is one reason why it's a good thing that Eastern Illinois shows up on the schedule now, because things get a lot more serious over the next couple weeks.
So it's odd, but good timing for this matchup.
I think you are correct.